Hello everybody, this is my 44th review of films to come out in 2025, and today we are talking about Weapons, written and directed by Zach Cregger. This will be a non-spoiler review for the first half, but a spoiler review for the second half, but don't worry, before I go into spoilers, I'll give you a warning. I have been kind of a hater of these modern horror comedies. I thought this director's last film, Barbarian, was just okay. I really did not like The Monkey or Longlegs. That's by Osgood Perkins, a different writer and director, but I think there are similarities of the modern horror comedy genre. Weapons actually has a lot in common with Longlegs in particular. But yeah, in my opinion, these recent horror comedies have just not done a good job of meshing the genres for me, and I end up not finding them scary or funny. So even though this was getting really good reviews, I was skeptical going into Weapons. I was kind of afraid that I'd be the one guy not liking it. So, would I recommend Weapons? I'll put it this way. This movie is split up into 6 different chapters that correlate with 6 different characters, and during the first 2 chapters, I was really into it. Very much enjoying what I was seeing, but a little skeptical as to where it was going. I was feeling like maybe this movie was banking too much on the fact that it's a mystery and I'm going to be invested because I want to know what happens at the end, and what was actually happening on screen with the character drama wasn't really that great or that interesting and didn't really correlate that much with the overall plot. And I was thinking maybe I would find this movie really boring on a rewatch knowing what the reveals are gonna be. But during the 5th and especially the 6th chapter of the movie, I was just loving it. I know a lot of people felt that the ending wasn't that satisfying for them, but personally I really disagree, and I'll get into why later. But anyways, at this point, 2 days after watching this movie, I'm feeling like this might be my favorite movie of the year. So far, that is. Something will probably pass it later this year. We got a while to go. But as I said, this is my 44th review of the year, and there are actually 12 other movies I've seen this year that I haven't reviewed yet, and out of all of them, I genuinely think this might be my favorite. So that's no small feat. I've seen a lot of movies this year. What did I like about it, you may ask? I just really felt like everything the movie was aiming to do, it was successful at. I genuinely found the horror kind of scary at times, and I don't really feel like I'm easy to scare. The audio mix at my theater was pretty loud, so that might be part of this, but some of the jump scares in this movie really got me. A lot of people hate jump scares and think it's really cheap, but in my opinion, I feel like you can definitely earn a jump scare. And that's how I felt about a lot of the jump scares in this movie. I felt like they were edited and shot well in a way that actually made them scary and effective. And what's great about a jump scare, if they're actually effectively startling to the viewer, which I think is rare, but these ones were, it causes you to be afraid for the rest of the movie. Whenever a character is going around a dark environment, opening a door, going through a hallway, turning corners, that kind of thing, you'll be on the edge of your seat, because you know a jump scare could be coming, and you know they could be scary. And in that way, I think the horror was very effective in this movie through use of jump scares. Even though people hate jump scares, I felt like having a really effective one near the start of this movie made the rest of the movie far scarier to me. Not that it was super scary or anything, but there definitely were a couple scenes where I was worried that something bad was coming. The comedy I thought was really good as well. I'm really hard to win over with these types of movies, but I laughed quite a few times during this movie. And because I don't usually like modern horror comedies, I was really worried at the start of this movie that it would be ruined by the comedy, because it had such a good, serious tone at the start. I was like, if this goes in a super silly direction, I think it's totally gonna ruin it. I did not want the movie to stop taking itself seriously. I did not want the characters to start doing funny one-liners. But the comedy is so effective because it still plays it straight. It takes itself seriously, but what's funny about it is what it's taking seriously is very absurd, which is just the perfect tone of comedy for me. I also really like it because if something isn't super funny to me, that doesn't mean it's gonna fall flat. Like, sometimes something might be aimed to be a little funny, but it could also work as something kind of horrific or something that's dramatic. Like, a lot of aspects of this movie work in multiple ways. The mystery is probably the most divisive aspect of the movie. As I said, a lot of people were not satisfied by this, but in my opinion, it was very effective. I was not shocked by the ultimate reveal. I don't even think that was the intention, but I think there are some mini reveals throughout the movie that were surprising. And I just really liked the way this movie went about it all. I liked that it's not some big twist at the very end. I liked that the story just sort of unravels, and you learn a little bit more and understand a little bit more until you completely understand what's going on. So while I wasn't super shocked, I definitely did not predict the end from the beginning of the movie. I don't consider this to be a spoiler, but there is a supernatural element to this movie, and sometimes that sucks in horror movies when the reveal is like, oh, there's a supernatural thing going on. It can be really unsatisfying when the movie starts off grounded. I think you know an example of this if you've seen it. I mentioned it earlier in this video. But that just really wasn't the case for this movie because it's pretty clear from the beginning that something supernatural is going on. That's why I don't consider it a spoiler even. So when that's the reveal, I was expecting it. I was not expecting a grounded explanation to what's going on in this movie. And the final element that worked really well for me was the character drama. I like it more and more the more I think about it. Especially with the third and fourth chapter. I was really not into them at first, but the more I think about it, I think it's kind of funny that the movie goes there. And also I think what it leads to, like where those characters end up, I thought was great. In general, I just really liked this non-chronological storytelling where you see the same event through other people's eyes. I thought it was done much better than Barbarian. There's a lot of little connections between the different stories in this movie, and you'll kind of understand an event better once you've seen it from a different person's perspective. Sometimes this was kind of unnecessary. There was one element in this movie that's really not a big deal at all, but I was just like, why explain that? It had to do with somebody ordering extra supplies for something. I think you'll know what I'm talking about if I say it like that. And I was just sort of like, we don't really need that to be explained, in my opinion, at least like this. And I also just felt like the movie spent a little too much time on it. It was inconsequential, and I think if it was really subtle, maybe that would have been kind of cool. I can't really spoil the movie, but in general, I really liked the storytelling. I thought the editing was great throughout, in multiple ways. It's a long movie, but I didn't have an issue with the pacing at all. I thought the music was great at most points. The cinematography was good as well, but I more so enjoyed the way the shots were directed. The composition is really great throughout. There's a lot of really well thought out camera movements and a lot of great long takes. And on the other hand, the lighting and color grading felt pretty typical for a horror movie. It looked very Blumhouse, which is not a big issue, but I would have liked something a little more unique, I guess. I thought the acting was good from everybody in the movie, even the kids, and there's a lot of kids in this movie. Usually, kid actors kind of stink, but in this movie I thought they were solid, and even though I didn't think there was like any super amazing or super standout memorable performances, it was never distracting. Like, it was all just really solid. So overall, I don't have any big issues with the movie. There are some minor things that I think could have been a little better, but to get more into that, I'll have to go into spoilers, so beware, spoilers from here on out. First off, isn't it wonderful when the climax of the movie is the best part? The whole final sequence of the movie with the two characters going into the house finally, I just thought was really thrilling. And while I wasn't worried that they were gonna die in particular, or the little boy was gonna die, I was kind of worried that the people being puppeteered, parasited would die, and they do. And at the end of the day, they were kind of innocent people that didn't deserve this at the very least. But the ending with the kids ripping apart the witch, maybe the best thing I've seen all year. It was super funny in a super absurd way, but it was well set up, it made sense for the movie, I wasn't expecting it, it was pretty gory, it was just amazing. I kind of wish it was a little gorier, but considering the kids are literally just ripping a woman apart, I'm sure they weren't allowed to show much more than they did. I loved it so much, it was amazing. Also, I like that the movie doesn't overstay its welcome after that. It leaves you with things to think about. It ends kind of abruptly, but I kind of liked that. I liked that you have to think about things at the end of the movie, that it leaves things ambiguous, and, I was thinking about it. Sometimes movies shouldn't end super cleanly, and I think this is a good example. Alright, I want to get into some critiques I have. They're just little things that I would have liked better, more logical explanations for. The aunt's plan for getting better is dumb. Having every kid in a class go missing except for one just puts way too much attention on that kid and therefore her. Especially if after that she's gonna put a bunch of newspapers on the window. Again, I just feel like it puts way too much attention on them. I think the aunt should have made Alex go missing as well or something. But also, the aunt is kind of crazy and probably not making the best decisions when she's dying, so I could understand her just being like, just get a thing from the kids in your class. I can realistically believe that she said that without thinking about the ramifications properly, and considering it would definitely be difficult for her to move to a different town or something, she might be just handling this situation the best she can, if she made Alex go missing, maybe she would be interrogated a lot more. I can kind of understand this. I thought it was kind of weird the way James, the homeless guy, walks into the house and all the kids, turn around and the parents kind of follow him a little bit. I think the aunt is puppeteering them a little bit, but I guess I just don't fully understand how the powers work, and I would have liked them explained a little bit more. The explanation for the aunt coming into the town and, like, the mom, I guess, not knowing that she's magic or something? I don't know. I think the fact that they left it kind of ambiguous and didn't over-explain it was the right move, but I'm still a little confused by that. I thought the kid definitely should have tried to run away or call the police or something when the aunt first controlled the parents before, you know, she makes them stab each other in the face with knives. But I can definitely think of some good justifications for that. He can't call the police on his own. He doesn't have a phone. He'd have to call them in front of her. He's obviously very scared of her. It doesn't seem like he has a friend to, like, run away to their house or something like that, and he probably doesn't know where the police station is. Like, I don't know if he really had a good way to handle the situation better than he did. And also, he might have just not understood what was happening fully because he's so young and might have just been really afraid of the aunt. There was just a part of me that was like, even if I were that young of a kid, I think I'd call the police or do something. So yeah, I did find a lot of these plot points a little confusing during the movie. I kind of felt like they may have been plot holes, but I think the more I think about the movie, the more I think this was thought out and maybe they just should have made it a little more obvious. I especially think the magic should have been explained a little bit better. But the one big plot hole that I don't see any justification for is that the teacher gets suspicious of Alex. You know, she sees the newspapers all over his windows, and then she decides to call the principal, and the principal is like, what's the big deal? Just because the one kid that wasn't abducted has newspapers all over his windows? That's not a big deal. Maybe it's just, you know, a way they decorate the house or something. Maybe the principal just was not paying attention to what the teacher was saying or thought the teacher was crazy or something, but I don't know. I feel like he's being way too lax considering the situation. And more importantly, why the hell is this teacher not contacting the police? She has a friend in this movie that's a police officer. Maybe, though, the implication might have been that she was scared to talk to the police because she, like, cheated with this police officer and the wife was, like, super mad and attacks her during the movie. I can't really think of a point of that whole subplot other than this, but, like, if that was the implication, it was not well communicated. The only other thing I want to talk about with this movie is the themes. There's definitely themes of parasitization and, you know, like, having a host. They make multiple references to that, like on the TV and in the classroom, and of course the whole like plot of the kids getting abducted. And there's also kind of like subtext around school shootings, I thought. Maybe I could be reading into it too much, but I think a bunch of kids going missing in a class and one being normal, feels like there's something going on there. Also, the dad of one of the kids at one point in the movie, like, dreams of a giant gun. And I think maybe that could be part of the meaning of the title Weapons. But what was the point of these metaphors? I don't know. And that's okay. I don't need to know. I don't need a big takeaway or moral at the end of this movie. It was just a good movie in a literal sense, even if the subtext was a little confusing to me. Anyways, I'm going to give this 4 stars out of 5. Tomorrow I will make a review for Wolfman, so subscribe to see that. In the description, I will put a link to my Letterboxd list ranking all of the movies I've seen of 2025 so far. Here is the ranking. There's Weapons at the very top, and there are the rest of the movies that I've talked about and reviewed this year. You can see reviews for all of them on my channel. There should also be a link to the playlist with all of my 2025 film reviews. You can also find that on my channel page and here on the left side of your screen. Thank you for watching. Comments and likes are very much appreciated. They help give me a boost in the algorithm. That's all I gotta say. See ya.